Hi, I'm Astrologer Penny Dix and welcome Libra to your astrological overview for the year 2025. And that's if you are Sun in Libra, rising sign also known as the ascendant, or sometimes some people also like to listen to their moon sign. So let's see, what is life going to be like for you in 2025? Because it's certainly been a kind of few years since really the beginning of 2020 of a bit of a roller coaster. And we've had a lot of the outer planets are shifting signs. So we're getting a shift in the change of the general energies, basically from earth to air and into fire and into water. Let me break that down for you, because you, of course, Libra, are an air sign and you are cardinal, which means you are directive, action-packed, and you like to get things done. What are you going to get done in 2025? Let's find out. First of all, I just want to talk about Pluto a bit, because Pluto is the planet of personal empowerment, transformation, beginnings, endings, and of course Pluto was the god of the underworld, probably still is, also known as Hades. And Pluto has spent the last 18 years in the sign of Capricorn, which of course was your fourth house. And it's now, thankfully, moved into your fifth house, Aquarius. Whilst it was in your fourth house, it was bringing a lot of structural changes. There would have been a lot going on for you in terms of property, buying, selling, moving, staying, not going, knocking walls down. But there could have been a lot of change in your living space. If not for you personally, then it would have been happening for your nearest and dearest, your family. So, it can even be that, family that were living at home leave, or family that weren't living at home move back in, and you think, oh God, I thought I got rid of you. So that can be the kind of energy. Now, Pluto, this wonderful transformational planet and the planet of personal empowerment, is moving into Aquarius. And it moved into your fifth house on the 19th of November, 2024. Now, the fifth house is the house of entertainment and fun, creativity. It can also be the house of children. And it's a very entertainment-based house. It can also be romantic love affairs. And, because basically the fifth house is a Leo house, but in your chart, it's Aquarius. So its ruling planet, and even though the sun is a star, we call it a planet, is the sun. So the sun, of course, shines its light on your social life. And for you, your social life is always very important. You do like to play as hard as you work. And with Pluto moving into this sign, or this part of your chart, it's not going to be any different. You are going to want to actually enjoy the company of others on a much deeper basis. In many ways, I think Pluto being here is going to show us that you're done with the kind of trivialities and the conversations which are so surface that we can sometimes get into at dinner parties, where we just think, I'm bored. This is just not stimulating. And I think, Libra, for you, you are going to feel that you need very much that kind of mental stimulation over the next 20 years, because that's how long Pluto is going to be in this part of your chart. Now, if you are of childbearing years, this could well see you producing a baby, if that is your desire. If it is not, take the right precautions. And if you are an older person who has children of childbearing age, I love using all these old-fashioned words, then it may well be you become a grandparent several times over even. So there's a lot around, because Pluto can mean birth. So it really feels that that could be part of the energy that you're experiencing. So that's what Pluto is doing for you. And it's going to, if you listen to my live streams every week on a Sunday, you will also get a glimpse into how it's going to affect us in more general terms throughout the year, and also how it affects what's going on the planet. Because let's face it, what goes on the planet also affects us very deeply. Let's move on to Jupiter, because Jupiter, the planet of luck, opportunity, expansion, is in Gemini, which is your 9th house of travel. And so, and Jupiter actually, of course, rules the 9th house, because by Zodiac, the 9th house is a Sagittarius house, and Jupiter rules Sagittarius. So Jupiter is super happy in your 9th house, which is Gemini, which is all about communication and learning. You love travel, Libra. You love to go off to other parts of the world and learn about different cultures and really kind of feel that you become at one with them. So that's been, I think, a big part of your life over the last year, certainly. Well, that energy is going to shift. Doesn't mean you stop traveling. It just means that it won't be so much at the top of your agenda. And Jupiter is moving into your 10th house. And your 10th house is the part of your chart to do with your career, your passion. Because remember, even if you're retired, there will be something that you love doing and that you want to get more and more involved in. So that basically Jupiter moving into your 10th house, which is Cancer, and it does this on the 9th of June, is going to be bringing in wonderful, lucky opportunities for you to really enjoy the things you are passionate about. If you are still of working age, if you have your own business, this is a super helpful energy. It's going to boost your finances. It's going to boost your opportunities for your career and your work, and just in general be very, very helpful. Then we come on to Uranus, which of course has been in Taurus in your 8th house. Now the 8th house can be a little bit of a tricky house, because the 8th house can be about joint finance, can also be about legacies, and because by Zodiac, it's a Scorpio house. And so it's fixed, it's very deep, it's very transformational, and Uranus has been here. And you're going to get a flavor of how it feels to have Uranus in your 9th house, which is coming up, and you're going to see this energy between the beginning of July and the beginning of November. But Uranus doesn't fully move into this part of your chart, which is Gemini, until 2026. Now, Uranus is the planet of the unexpected. It's the planet of shocks, rebellion, freedom of speech, speaking out of terms, saying it how it is. Whilst it's been in your 8th house, you will certainly have been very upfront with anything that you might be dealing with to do with, say, joint finance, accounts, anything like that, shares, all those kind of things, writing wills. You will have not been shy in coming forward and saying what you really think, Libra. And with Uranus moving into your 9th house, which is the part of your chart to do with long distance travel and also higher education, but it's also about spirituality. Now, if you are a Libran who has never really particularly given much credence to more of the spiritual side of life, and yet I would suspect that if you're watching this video, it is something that is in your conscious awareness, even if you're not completely consciously aware, because to be interested or to listen to what's going on in astrology means there must be some part of you, because you are an evidence-based sign, Libra. You're about balance, harmony, and relationship, and you like to know that things are in harmony and that kind of thing. So you also like your evidence, because there's a lot of Libran energy which is about justice. So Uranus moving into your 9th house is really kind of giving you a flavour of what's to come over the next 8 to 9 years. You are going to be kind of a little bit surprised, a bit shocked by events that maybe happen on the planet that wake you up, that wake up not only your curiosity and your fascination with new subjects, but also your spiritual side. You know, Pluto in Aquarius is going to bring some extraordinary changes for all of us. I think we are going to learn a lot more about the universe and find out that we are not alone, and the life that is teeming out there in the universe is not quite what we envisage it. It's not our Star Trek and kind of Star Wars kind of image or archetype. It's quite different. And that is going to become apparent. Now, Uranus is a planet that rules Aquarius. And Uranus, of course, actually can really kind of spark your interest in things that are greater than yourself, bigger than yourself, in the sense that you might really want to delve into these other kind of extraordinary paths that can unfold for all of us on the planet, and your curiosity will be stirred and you will want to find your evidence to give it credence. And then finally, before I move on to the retrogrades, and this is a long reading, so I hope you're sitting comfortably with a coffee or a cup of tea or even a gin and tonic, Libra, you know, whatever takes your fancy, whatever time of day it is that you're listening to this. So whilst I continue to witter on, let's talk about Neptune and Saturn. Now, Neptune and Saturn have been in your 6th house, Pisces, and they've been there. Well, Neptune has been there forever, and Neptune has been causing kind of a little bit of disruption to your working routine, to your day-to-day routine, to your sense of, you know, you do quite like structure and you like harmony and beauty. And Neptune has a knack of dissolving things and making things not seem quite as clear or clean cut as you would like them. And it's in Pisces in your 6th house, which is the sign it rules. So it kind of doubly emphasizes that energy. Also with Neptune in Pisces, you may have experienced, you can have experienced anxiety or depression or irritating viruses that you just can't shake off, because that is the nature of Neptune in Pisces, especially in the 6th house, because it can be health. But thankfully, that energy is going to shift now into your 7th house of significant relationships. Now, let's just put that there, and I'll come to that in a minute, because I want to just remind you that both Neptune and Saturn, and I'll come to Saturn in a minute, are not moving fully into your 7th house until 2026. Excuse me, when they will actually have an exact conjunction in February. And this year, 2025, we're going to experience them in April, May, and June. We're going to experience that energy. So both Saturn and Neptune will be sitting on what we call the descendant of your chart, which is supercharged and powerful. It's going to be shedding light on how to move forward with certain key relationships in your life. Now, Saturn, to remind you, Saturn, of course, is the ruler of Capricorn. It's also, interestingly, a co-ruler of Aquarius, but Saturn is about boundaries, restriction, timing, and keeping things in order and, containing one's feelings, because it may also be that whilst Neptune has been in your 6th house, you've had a lot of you've over worried about things or overthought things, because with these, irritating perhaps infections or viruses that you may have picked up, you've worried that they may be something more serious. And Saturn has been trying to slow you down and contain that anxiety and say, get it checked out. Once you've checked it out, you have the facts, you have the evidence. So it'll be less likely to be a problem. Now, with both of these powerful energies sitting on your descendant, they're giving you this glimpse of how your relationships are going to unfold over the next few years. Now, Saturn also in the 7th house, which for you is Aries, because that's your opposite sign. Aries is about the I am, the ego, it's a very sort of self-based or self-oriented sign. So you always look for in another someone who is quite self-contained. And you like somebody who looks good, who has a powerful balance of their energies, if that makes sense. Now, Saturn is going to be putting the potential for further commitment in significant relationships. Anything that is teetering in that area where it's not going so well can end with Saturn here. And if it doesn't end this year, you will certainly be looking at whether it can go beyond February 2026. So that will definitely put some stresses and strains on significant relationships. And Neptune in the 7th can also be a little bit more about romance. And so maybe what Neptune can give you in the 7th is a little bit more of that dreamy imagination and romance, so that your fears and anxieties about certain key relationships can be allayed. And Saturn can give you the structure and say, just take it easy. Slow down, smell the roses, as they say, and just enjoy the view. So that's what's going on with the major planets this year, in brief, because I tell you what, this really is an action-packed year. Now, let's move on to the retrogrades, because we have Mercury going retrograde. We've also got Mars and Venus, who of course is your ruling planet, going retrograde this year. So let's have a look at Mercury first, because Mercury, of course, is our planet of communication. And it went retrograde in November 2024, and it went direct again in December 2024, so that it starts the year in the sign of Sagittarius, which is your 3rd house of communication, and it's at 19 degrees. Now, whilst it's been in Sagittarius, your 3rd house, it's been making you go back and look at it. It feels as if there's something you've been researching or learning and really trying to get to grip with the kind of nitty-gritties of it. And Mercury's retrograde has actually given you the time to actually do the research that you perhaps might have wanted to do. Now, once it goes direct, it goes all the way round and gets to your 7th house, which is Aries, and it gets to 9 degrees of Aries on March the 15th and goes retrograde. And then it will retrograde back into your 6th house, Pisces. And that will be all the way to 26 degrees of Pisces. So there's a lot here about, you know what I think it is? It's looking at the actual, the health of your significant relationships. And I'm not talking about the physical health, but the kind of communication health, how you relate to each other, if you have a significant other. And if you don't, you might find yourself being helpful or intervening in others that have difficulties with their personal relationships. So there's that kind of energy around. And by April the 7th, Mercury will go direct and then move forwards eventually back into your 7th house of significant relationships, where it can liven up the relationships you do have, the significant relationships, and make them just more interesting. And then the next retrograde we have is in your 11th house, which is Leo. And the 11th house, of course, is the house of the community at large. It's also about our hopes, our wishes, our dreams. And it's also, I think, about sometimes thinking outside the box and being a little bit rebellious. And you know, Libra, for all your containment, because you are quite a contained sign, you can be quite the little rebel when you want to be. And here we are in Leo, in the 11th house, and on July the 18th at 15 degrees, Mercury, our planet of communication, will go retrograde. And what it will do is actually give you a chance to slow down and think about what it is you actually want to bring into your life in terms of some hobby, something you could work on. You know, whether you're working or not, whether you're retired or not, there may be something that you want that is more mentally stimulating. And you know, as we get older, and I know a lot of my viewers here are, you know, more in my kind of age group. And, you know, we have to do things that keep our brains functioning well. And I have to say, for me, doing the astrology couldn't be a better idea, because I'm having to constantly work on it, think, look at the transits for the next particular full moon or new moon or whatever it is. So it really works my brain. And, you know, doing these videos, I'm having to keep lots of information up here. And I know, because if you watch me regularly, sometimes I get it wrong. I get it horribly wrong, but I own up to it. And I say, look, you know, I can't be perfect. Sometimes I get it wrong. And of course, that's something actually, Libra, you don't really like. But that's another story. But this particular retrograde in Leo, it goes, excuse me, it goes direct on the 11th of August. So I just think that little summer period is giving you some time for reflection and think, what would I like to kind of learn more about, understand more about? So there's that kind of energy about. And then we have another retrograde, and this is in November, and this is in Sagittarius and Scorpio. So this will be between your 3rd and your 2nd house. Now let's break that down and understand it. So Sagittarius is about travel. It's about higher education, and it's a sign ruled by Jupiter. So it's very much about expansive ideas. It's your 3rd house, which is the, excuse me, the house of communication. So for you, with Mercury, the planet of communication, in this part of your chart, you're kind of super keen on finding new ideas and kind of thinking of different places to travel off to, assuming you have the funds that will help you do it. Well, we might find out a bit more of that when Mercury actually goes back into your 2nd house, which is Scorpio. And this is your house of finance. And this is the house of what you accrue, how often, or how it can often be how we make our money, how we manage our money. And Scorpio here, you make sure you've always got it squirreled away somewhere, because Scorpio, remember, has hidden depths. So you will be quite cagey about your worth, but don't be too cagey about your actual person or personable worth, because self-worth and self-confidence are wonderful qualities and help us achieve an awful lot in this life, including feeling much better about ourselves and everyone around us. And Mercury goes retrograde on November the 9th in Sagittarius, and it will go all the way back to 20 degrees of Scorpio in your second house. So it's going to give you a chance to look at your financial situation. It may be a time of year where you're, excuse me, balancing the books, getting everything kind of in order, budgeting for Christmas or the winter and looking at how you can manage everything. And then it finally goes direct on the 29th of November, and then it will continue to move forwards. So that's what Mercury is up to this year. I better have some water. I have a frog down my throat. Let's look at Mars. Now, Mars is a masculine energy. It rules Aries, which of course is your 7th house. So you can be quite racy, can't you, Libra? You're one of these kind of, you keep it well hidden, but I think, you know, underneath it all, underneath that cool, calm exterior is quite a racy woman or man. So I just throw in a little bit of humour because I think it's so important to laugh. Anyway, Mars, the planet of energy, action, sexuality, and now I've got cat hairs all over me. I'm doing well with this video, aren't I? Mars goes retrograde in your 11th house. That's, remember, the part of your chart that's to do with hopes, dreams and wishes and the community at large. Goes retrograde at 1 degree of Leo. And it will be, well, no, actually, it's already retrograde. I'm sorry. It goes retrograde before the end of 2024. In fact, it goes retrograde on, I think it's the 6th of December. I'm actually recording this on the 1st of December, so it hasn't actually happened yet. So it goes retrograde on the 6th, and so it will be retrograde as we go into the new year in your 11th house. So Mars slowing down in this part of your chart is actually giving you some respite from the energy involved that you may be putting into your new ideas and projects, and preventing you burning out or getting too exhausted by all the things you're planning. And it finally goes all the way back into Scorpio, which is your, sorry, I jumped up a line. It finally goes back into Cancer, which is your 10th house. And that is, it goes all the way back to 17 degrees of Cancer, which of course is the part of your chart. It's the 10th house. This is your career and what you're passionate about. And it may be that this is a time of year when actually there could be some of these irritating little viruses around that are slowing you down, and that you can't do the things that you're passionate about, because it just feels that you're being asked to be mindful about your health at this time. It goes direct on the 24th of February at 17 degrees, and then it will move back into Leo and your 11th house, and you will by then be starting to feel better. But you know, it's a funny time of year, isn't it? January, February, for us in the Northern Hemisphere, because I am aware there is a huge other half to the planet called the Southern Hemisphere, and you are enjoying summer as I sit here in my winter clothes because it is cold as I'm recording these videos in hot sunny Go Zone. Not today. It's not today. I even have a blanket. It's freezing. Anyway, so that's what Mars is up to. Now, Venus, our planet of love, relationship, the divine feminine, beauty. And, you know, it always makes me think of Venus when she's known as Aphrodite, coming out of the sea foam, being born in that wonderful shell, in that beautiful painting done by Botticelli. And, you know, that epitomizes this kind of connection that Venus has with the elements. And even though Venus rules Taurus and Libra, so she is actually fixed and cardinal, it shows that this divine feminine energy has a lot of energy towards creating beauty, bringing harmony in. Now, Venus, when she goes retrograde, again, I think is giving us a chance to take a little bit of care of us, to actually give us some attention to our physical well-being, to our body, to our physical needs. And she goes retrograde on March the 2nd in Aries, which of course is your 7th house of significant relationships, at 10 degrees. I think it's also that with Venus here, you may be taking some time out with a significant other. And, you know, this is irrelevant as to whether, as a Libran listening, you're male or female, because it's just talking about the divine feminine. And when I was talking about Mars, I'm talking about the divine masculine. And we have these energies in both of us, in all sexes, excuse me, including transgender genders. I'm not very good with the words for all the woke stuff. And I don't mean it like that for anyone who's woke. I'm too old to understand it. I'm just going to pull the age card on that one. Anyway, Venus, I think, will be giving you a chance to have some quiet times and nice times with people that you're close to at this time. And Venus actually retrogrades all the way back into your 6th house, Pisces. And it goes back as far as 24 degrees. So Venus will actually be helping you with any pesky, you know, infections that have been holding over or hanging over from the winter, and help clear those up. And basically Venus will go direct on April the 13th. And then the energies will shift and you will start to feel a lot better. Now let's move on to the eclipses, because yes, we have eclipses this year. And we have the nodes changing sign. Now what that means is the nodes, the north node and the south node, are they look like a little kind of horseshoe. They're kind of like that shape, or upside down. And basically they represent a point in space where the ecliptic path cuts through if my fist here is the sun, we've got the moon here, and then down here we've got the earth. So we get an eclipse when the moon is between the earth and the sun. Let me explain it a bit better, because basically the nodes are changing signs. They stay in a sign for about 18 months and then they shift their energy to another sign. And the north node is about your destiny, your direction in life, where you want to go to, how you would like your future to unfold. So eclipses are very powerful for setting intentions. South nodes are about our karmic past, what we bring in from, say, past lives, or also lessons still to be learnt and addressed from the past in our current life. Now, let me just explain what a solar eclipse is, because an eclipse of the sun happens when the new moon moves between the sun and the earth. So it blocks out the sun's rays, casts a shadow on parts of the earth. Now a lunar eclipse, and if it's a total lunar eclipse, is a full moon, and this is when the earth comes between the sun and the moon, and its shadow covers the moon. So if you're watching a full moon total lunar eclipse, the moon can appear to turn red, and that's when the eclipse reaches its totality. Eclipses are powerful because they dim the light. They take something away, which is why in history eclipses were revered with awe and dread, because often it meant the fall of leaders, kings, emperors, queens. And it's extraordinary how even today we can link in the loss of certain, well-known figures, whether they're leaders or celebrities, and often they leave the physical body around an eclipse. So this year we have 4 eclipses, and the first one is on March the 14th, and it's a total full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo, and it's at 23 degrees and 58 minutes in your 12th house. Now the 12th house is where we can feel restricted, a little bit imprisoned. It's where we can get a bit depressed if we don't do the inner work and get to know ourselves. Remember the oracle at Delphi? Over the archway, it said, know thyself. And it just reminds me that there are many therapy kind of forms out there that promise quick fixes. Now, in my experience, in my humble experience as a psychotherapist, obviously as a patient of psychotherapy, because that's how most therapists become psychotherapists, and as a practicing psychotherapist for many years in the UK before I moved to Gozo, self-development and knowing ourselves does not come easily or quickly. It's hard work, and it's painful, and everything comes at a price. But the rewards, the ultimate rewards, are enormous, and it really is worth going down into the depths that we need to go to face our shadow side, to really understand ourselves deeply. So coming back to this eclipse, it's in your 12th house, and it's a full moon lunar eclipse. It's total. So it's taking the light away from the moon. The moon is the feminine. So it's as if it's saying to you, what do you, Libra, need to let go of on an inner psychological level? What do you need to let in? Where can the light not get into? Is there part of your feminine psyche, your feminine psychology, because it's the moon, that you are not letting the light come in on? So that's my take on that particular lunar eclipse. Now we have a partial new moon solar eclipse in Aries. So this is still when the node is still in Aries and has not moved into Pisces. This is the north node. That lunar eclipse is with the south node. It's about lessons from the past. This is a north node new moon solar eclipse in your 7th house of significant relationships. It's at 8 degrees and 53 minutes, 29th of March. New beginnings in significant relationships, decisions made, new ways forward, lifting the veils on something that's important, making a commitment, making a more solid commitment going forward. So that is a really comforting and positive eclipse. The next couple of eclipses are in September. And on the 7th, we have a total lunar eclipse. That's a full moon in Pisces. That's your 6th house of health and your day-to-day routine. It's at 15 degrees and 24 minutes. So it's September the 7th. It's a full moon in Pisces. Full moons are about completion, resolution. This could see if there's been a health issue overhanging things. This could see the veils actually being lifted and you finding out what it really is, what has been irksome or bothersome or troubling you. So it can see a way forward to the remedy for whatever it is. It can also mean that you decide to make significant changes in your daily routine, especially if you're still working, have a full-time job. You may be deciding to cut back, go part-time, or work partly from home, partly in your office kind of thing. So that can also be something that could come up with this energy. And the final eclipse of the year is on the 21st of September, and it's a new moon partial solar eclipse. And it's in Virgo, which of course is your 12th house. And I've just been talking about this at 28 degrees and 59 minutes. So it's almost on your ascendant. This is about new beginnings for you and the inner you. This is about you starting to see yourself in a very different way, and people, those around you, experiencing you as having changed and having grown in some way, having become softer, more approachable. Because sometimes Librans can be, because you are very keen to have everything in order and keep everything aesthetically in place and beautiful. And there's nothing wrong with that, nothing at all. I mean, if you go into the home of a Libran, it's beautiful, it's stunning. One's frightened to sit down in case you crease a cushion. And so this kind of energy is a little bit like saying, people are going to see you a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more letting go. And that can only be a good thing. Then finally, before we bring your 2025 reading to a close, we look at some of the major transits for this year. First of all, I want you to think back to what was going on at the beginning of November 2024. That's the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th. Now, the 5th, to remind you, was the US election. So there was a lot of anxiety and tension around in the world, on the planet, a lot of stress for people in the United States and the rest of the world, because the whole world watches to see who is going to be the leader of the Western world. And of course, half the United States were happy with the result and half were unhappy with the result, as usually happens in elections. And I'm not making comments either way, because that's not my business and it's not what I'm talking about in the astrology. But what I'm talking about is the energy and that tension we had, which was caused by Mars in Cancer, which was really kind of pulling, and it was in your 10th house, really pulling against the energy of Pluto in in Capricorn, in your 4th house. And it was pulling this energy apart and making you very caught between a rock and a hard place, and caught between what you want to do with, say, what you're passionate about, and the restrictions that can be caused by home and family. Now, at the beginning of this year, the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, we have the same transit between Mars and Pluto, but they've changed signs. So Mars has moved into Leo, which is your 11th house. That's the part of the chart that is to do with your hopes and wishes, your dreams, projects. This is also about rebellion, freedom of speech, technology. and the community at large. It's Mars, it's assertion, it's aggression, it's activity. It's like, let's get this thing going. And it's opposite again. So we've got this tense energy opposite Pluto, the planet of transformation and personal empowerment, in Aquarius, in your 5th house. So this is the part of the chart to do with creativity, entertainment, friends. It can be to do with love affairs and people having babies, you having babies, people you know having babies. And so you've got this tension. So whatever was around for you at the beginning of November seems to come up again, but with a slightly different kind of slant on it, so that you look at it in a slightly different way. And then by April the 27th, we get the same transit, which I think is super interesting, because I think what this will do is bring you some kind of resolution. You will actually think, okay, that's what that was about. Now I get it. Now I understand it. Now I can move on. The next important transit I want to remind you about is the Saturn, the planet of structure, boundaries, rules and timing, conjunct Neptune. That means they're up close and personal. Neptune, the planet of illusion, delusion, can be viruses, it can be depression, it can be anxiety. And in April and May and June, you've got this energy, remember, just at the beginning on your descendant of your 7th house. It's not exact, remember, till 2026, but it will be causing you to review your relationships and look at how you can make some kind of commitment going forward that works for both of you if you are in a relationship. If not, this could bring somebody interesting into your life. There could be some quite interesting kind of prospects that come up with this kind of energy that don't mature until 2026. Now, the next major transit we need to mention is about Uranus, our planet of the unexpected, the planet of shocks, the planet of earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. In Taurus, it's been for a long time, of course, in your 8th house. Now, that's fine. This is when it's there. This is before it dips its toes into your 9th house. So let's stay with where it is. And it's sextiling Saturn in Pisces. And this is in your 6th house. And this is between March, April, June and July. This energy is slowing you down to do with things you're worrying about. You're overthinking something, and the Uranus is getting you into the what if this happens? What if that doesn't happen? What if the books don't balance? What if my financial situation doesn't balance? So you'll be getting you kind of all into a bit of a tiz about things like that. But it's a sextile. It's saying, hey, you know what? There's nothing to worry about. Calm down. Now, next we need to look at Pluto, because Pluto, of course, in your 5th house, Aquarius, will be sextiling Neptune and Saturn, teetering on the edge of your 7th house in Aries in April, May and June. So they will be working on transforming some relationship, if you're single and looking, that can become something more permanent. So just be mindful of that energy. Then when Uranus has moved for a short while into your 9th house of travel and higher education and spiritual kind of tuning into those higher spiritual frequencies, your 9th house, Gemini, that'll also be making a lovely sextile, which is a helpful aspect to Neptune in Aries in your 7th. And that's July, August and September. And so it's going to really kind of bring some unexpected kind of benefits in, and unexpected outings, surprises, trips away. So nice, interesting energy in those summer months. And then we have a difficult square, which is always see it as a challenge. When we get squares, just think, yeah, bring it on, a challenge. We don't want any of these trines making us sit back and not work hard. Let's have the squares. And this is a square between Neptune and Saturn in your 7th house, on that descendant, hovering there for just a little while, really between kind of June, July. And they're squaring Jupiter, the planet of expansion, luck, and opportunity, in the sign of Cancer. Because this is before Jupiter moves fully into Gemini. And this is in your 10th house of your passion, your career, your work, anything that really rocks your soul. So that will be interesting energy and just a bit challenging. It's as if your other half, if you have one, or significant people in your life are putting up blocks and saying, why are you doing it that way? That's not the right way to go. And really kind of like making you think, for goodness sake. But maybe they have a point, and it's about going back and rethinking what they're actually trying to convey to you. So that's something to kind of bear in mind. And then the final transit I want to mention is Saturn in Pisces in your 6th house of day-to-day living and illness and health and wellness, is trining Jupiter in Cancer in your 10th in October, November and December. And so is Pluto in Aquarius in your 5th, trining Uranus in Taurus in your 8th in October, November and December. They are bringing in this lovely whoosh of energy of support and kind of expansion. And expansion in many ways to do with your kind of, I wonder whether it'll be interesting to see what is happening on the world stage, because I feel this could be affecting you financially in a positive way. So this is October, November, December. And I think that what this is about is that maybe what you have to do is listen to my overview for the whole planet, which is attached, linked to all these individual zodiac signs, because that might give you a clue, because I can't remember what I said, but it may be that towards the end of 2025, there is more buoyancy in the world economy if it slows down a bit at the beginning of 2025 because of the change of government in the United States and all sorts of other dramas that can unfold that are too numerous to even give energy to. But on that note, Libra, I want to say thank you so much for coming to patiently listen to this very long overview for 2025. And I really wish you a really peaceful, happy, healthy, wealthy 2025. And please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. If you want a session with me in 2025, go to my website, pennydix.com, send me an email, and wherever you are in the world, I will tailor-make you a session that suits my time zone and matches in with your availability and your time zone. All very easy. So we can look at your natal chart and transits. So on that note, thank you so much for joining me. And I really look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care. Have a great year. And I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.